All right. RDS Proxy supports RDS for SQL Server.
Got it. I think we need to take down the scores
Oh,
before we
good point.
or while we're discussing this
Can't bias
particular.
this one.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right.
So RDS Proxy, this one I really like. So the problem that we used to run into with the advent of Lambda was the fact that most of our code bases, so if you write a code or a code snippet that actually connects to a database and does anything with it, what do you need? You basically set up the code sets up a connection with the database, and then you start doing all your transactions, and then you close the connection, right? Now, when you have Lambda, when you're launching tens of thousands of Lambdas at any point of time, because I mean, Lambdas, if you have a queue that's being processed and you're doing Lambdas, and each Lambda survives maybe less than a second, if you were to set up a connection every time, and this is a TCP-based connection, you're setting up a connection with the server, with the database server, doing that entire, handshake and transaction, and then going through the exercise of tearing down the connection at the end of that transaction, it just feels like an incredibly inefficient way of doing things, because you're probably spending more time computing the connection than actually transacting that record manipulation.
Okay.
That is a big
makes
challenge.
sense.
So RDS Proxy came about with the idea, and this came up first for MySQL and PostgreSQL, with the idea that you would have this proxy that sits between your database and your Lambdas and holds a pool of connections.
So kind of like a warm pool that then has to reestablish the session.
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
Exactly. And Lambdas can request a quick connection from the pool without having to really establish a full-fledged connection with the database. They get a connection, they do whatever they do, and then they release the connection. And that way you don't have that overhead talking to the database over and over again. And you can scale up with Lambdas without giving either Lambdas too much processing to do or the database too much processing to do. And this becomes a way more efficient way of doing things. Now, with this announcement, they seem to have extended this to SQL Server, which is awesome. I'm actually surprised that they did SQL Server, because SQL Server and Oracle traditionally had been issues with Amazon because they are proprietary protocols under the hood, and Amazon wouldn't do it. So I'm actually very curious as to how they went about doing this, and also curious to see if Oracle's round the corner, because that would make a big difference.
And so it's interesting, right? Because even though, like you said, there might be some proprietary code in there, at the end of the day, the vendor would want their database to be used more, and so has an incentive to kind of support this particular feature.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of load balancing mechanism definitely benefits the vendors as well. But both Microsoft and Oracle kind of set up their licensing in a manner that prefers for them to have their customers on their clouds rather than on a vendor like AWS. So it's still surprising a bit to me, but I'm really glad that they did it.
Well, this is this classic, what do you call it, co-opetition, where
exactly.
Yeah, they have. I mean, they want to make money either way, right? And so I guess that they're humble enough to say, okay, people are going to be using AWS. Not everyone's on.
Yeah,
that's where everyone is. So
Correct.
might as well get a slice of that pie.
Yeah, it's probably just that. So yeah, curious, but this is a really neat development. Now you can write .NET based lambdas that can talk to your SQL Server, or even Python based lambdas that can talk to SQL Server. It doesn't matter, but there are typically a lot of .NET scripts that just talk to SQL Server, do some transactions, turn them into lambdas, and now make them event driven.
Oh, and speaking about lambdas, it's been bugging me since we did that little the dev spaces demo. Why it didn't work. I fixed it on the side. I know what it was now. It was my sample event was depending on something on a field being there that wasn't in the main code. So just wanted to go back to that for a second. This does work. We get a function URL, hello world. I'll update the template. I was realizing my local event wasn't the same as my GET request. I was testing it against a post that had a field, but
Got it.
it does work. So I'll update that. So for completeness, sorry, that was bugging me in the back of my mind. And I was thinking now, okay, we could have a template for C# .NET based lambdas as well that you
Correct.
could develop in dev spaces and then talk to SQL Server. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
I've actually had almost no experience writing C# lambdas, but it's pretty interesting. Yeah, it would definitely be interesting to see how those turn out.
All right. Well, how do we rate this article then?
This is neat. This I love this. This definitely simplifies stuff for anyone wanting to get onto C#. So, or if they have scripts written in C#. So,
all right,
definitely simplifies, and this is between 4 and 5. Yeah,
I guess another 4.5. Nice work, Amazon. Doing very well today. All right, cool.
I don't know if it's that or if it is selection bias.
That's an interesting point, right? We might only pick the articles we're interested in. Okay, so that's another bit of automation. We should review one that's completely randomly taken off the RSS feed.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and talk about the next article. We'll queue up the transition right now. Here we go. I think we're talking about Fargate next.